Apple, widely recognized as a pioneer in technology, now finds itself in a pivotal moment as it faces the enforcement of the European Union's stringent Digital Markets Act, DMA. Regarded as groundbreaking legislation, the DMA is designed to curb the extensive influence that big tech companies wield over the digital market. This legislation marks an evolution in how the EU intends to maintain fairness and competition, and Apple appears to be the first major player to experience its implications. Sources with direct knowledge of the proceedings have disclosed that the EU's antitrust regulators have laid charges against Apple, alleging a breach of the bloc's robust technology rules. These allegations arise from concerns that Apple's dominant market position and practices might stifle competition, dampening innovation and potentially disadvantaging smaller competitors. Apple's case is particularly significant because it sets a precedent on how the DMA intends to operate moving forward. In June, the formal complaints outlined by the EU Commission highlighted specific grievances against the tech giant, marking a crucial development in the EU's regulatory landscape. As this situation unfolds, the anticipated fine could make Apple the first company to be penalized under the DMA, signifying a critical step towards greater market regulation of large technology enterprises. Expected to be handed down within this month, the fine serves not only as a punitive measure, but also as a cautionary note to other tech companies operating within the EU jurisdiction. However, the exact timing remains uncertain as the regulatory process continues to evolve. If imposed, the fine could reshape Apple's operational strategies within the European market and influence how other major tech companies adhere to the revised legal expectations. This unfolding event will undoubtedly be closely monitored by tech companies worldwide, investors, and policymakers alike, all of whom have vested interests in the balance of power within the digital realm. The outcome of this regulatory action by the EU may well influence future legislation beyond Europe, potentially affecting global regulatory practices within the technology sector. Apple, the tech giant renowned for its innovative products and pioneering technology, faces mounting challenges on the legal front. EU regulators have been tightening the noose around Apple, aiming to level the playing field for smaller firms by enforcing stringent antitrust regulations. Just months prior, in March, Brussels handed down a hefty fine of €1.84 billion, $2.01 billion, to Apple. This penalty was significant as it was Apple's first ever for infringing upon EU rules, marking a historical moment in the intersection of tech and law. The reason for the fine stemmed from accusations that Apple was stymieing competition from music streaming rivals through restrictive practices on its App Store, a crucial platform for developers worldwide. But the challenges don't end there for Apple. The company is under investigation for imposing new fees on app developers, which has raised further antitrust concerns. The EU watchdogs are vigilant, and any breach of the Digital Markets Act, DMA, could result in penalties of up to 10% of a company's global annual turnover. For a behemoth like Apple, such a penalty could translate into billions of dollars. This scenario has turned the spotlight on how major tech companies might be curbing competition through seemingly monopolistic practices. As the EU steps up its efforts to regulate and scrutinize the tech industry, Apple's case becomes a litmus test for the future of digital market governance. It's a scenario that has the potential to reshape the company's strategy moving forward, challenging Apple to adapt and reconsider how its operations should comply with global and local regulations. The outcome of these antitrust issues remains to be seen, but they herald significant implications for the tech industry at large, prompting conversations about fairness, competition, and innovation in a vastly digital world. In the bustling halls of the European Union headquarters, a sense of assertiveness permeated the atmosphere as officials set their sights on the technology giant Apple. The Digital Markets Act, DMA, a robust policy instituted to champion digital fairness, had been put into force earlier that year. An essential pillar of this act was to resist monopoly tendencies by giving consumers more choice and challenging major tech players like Apple to comply. Under the DMA's regulation, Apple was required to make sweeping changes to its operations. Users could now set their preferred web browsers as defaults on iPads, access alternative app stores, and enjoy interoperability between various third-party hardware like headphones and smart pens with iPad OS features. This mandate aimed to place more control in the hands of consumers, reflecting a broader EU strategy to decentralize digital power. Apple, however, remained silent amid the uproar and chose not to comment on how they intended to respond to the new requirements. Meanwhile, speculations ran rampant in tech and financial circles when the reputation of the tech titan was dealt another blow. A prolonged court battle over tax arrangements ended unfavorably for Apple, resulting in an order to pay €13 billion in back taxes to Ireland, a hefty sum that caused ripples across their financial ecosystem. Adding to the tension, reports surfaced of an impending fine sanctioned by EU watchdogs. Chief among their grievances was Apple's reluctance to allow app developers to redirect users to more competitive deals outside the realm of the Apple-controlled App Store. This fine, first reported by Bloomberg and attributed to insiders with knowledge of the case, signaled a burgeoning friction between industrial innovation and regulatory oversight. The European Commission did not provide immediate commentary on these developments, leaving a silence that spoke volumes of the impending standoff. As Apple strategized its next move, a larger narrative unfolded over the matter of corporate autonomy versus consumer rights. This epoch marked a significant moment where the balance of power between tech conglomerates and global regulators was being recalibrated, shaping the digital landscape for years to come.